Hello everyone, welcome to Narain's Life with MS. This is Narain and it's time for what MS has taught me. Now, MS, has a tendency to teach us a lot of things, but honestly, and it's very difficult whenever, I come across this topic because I don't know where to start and I do not know where to end. But the one thing that MS actually teaches you is just about, you know, time and the fact that time, while time is sort of a measurement, right? While time is more of a, you know, what you did yesterday versus what you will do tomorrow. It's that, but it has an ability to really, define itself, especially when you have something like MS, because there is a certain change that is happening throughout your life, right? Be it that you are having periodic relapses or you are progressing at a gradual or at a faster rate. The whole point is that with when you do have MS, you actually do understand the whole concept of time. Now, of course, a lot of people can you know use a lot of different things about themselves and really be able to measure time like that. But usually the way I like to measure time myself is just in terms of some of the abilities I used to possess versus what is happening now. And the reason I say that is because one of my favorite things to do a few years back was I would love tiptoeing everywhere I went. I would be very, very quiet when I would, get into a room. I I remember I used to scare a lot of people just because I'd be so quiet when I'd walk around. And it's almost the exact opposite now where you can probably hear me from you know the next house of me moving around. But it is one thing to really give you a perspective of not only in terms of how fast time is going but also how quickly certain things are changing. And of course, one of the first things that you learn once you're uh, diagnosed with MS is to try and keep yourself as much as possible on day zero, right? Day one, whatever whatever abilities you had at that point. If you probably had an attack and you got the proper treatment and so came back to whatever status quo was, you want to maintain that. And usually you're pretty much always comparing yourself to whatever that was. And this is of course something that I am definitely coming to, because it has been it's going to be 17 years this June. And as a result, I did want to I did want to uh, I did want to point it out that a lot of times what does end up happening is there will be l- periods of time where certain things will get worse at a much faster rate, certain things will get better. hopefully at a much faster rate. But usually the one thing that you can actually uh, you know pretty much identify where you are is by your ability. And definitely that is one thing that MS has taught me, that while time is relative, while time is something that you can definitely measure in terms of years or dates, or in terms of where you worked, what you were doing, if you were you know in school or college or in any of these different things. Usually the one thing that does end up happening and does become a little easier to identify, or at least for me, is what level of ability did I have. And I think being able to talk about the fact that I was a very quiet walker, the fact that I was pretty much um, a sneak when it came to just you know walking up to people, scaring them, just goes to show that a lot can happen over a very small time. So it's probably one of the easiest ways to keep track of time. But of course, the whole point of doing all of this is to remember that there used to be a time where all of that was possible. And you know through um, making sure that you are living as healthy a life as possible, you can definitely return back to that very same place. And you can definitely practice until you reach there. So that is one thing that MS has taught me. MS, and I think it is definitely something that I will definitely come back to. Probably not in this series, but maybe in another series, in a future series, because one thing to definitely keep track of is the fact that by the end of March, which is honestly not very far away, it's about a month and a half away, I'll be celebrating the day where I will have spent an equal amount of time as being diagnosed with MS as undiagnosed with MS. So keep that in mind while you also evaluate your life, and you take something that is as maybe as impactful as you know as something like an diagnosis. Of course, it's not the biggest thing, but it definitely is something that is pretty important. And really evaluate your life on that note. And of course, considering I'll be still 33. Yeah, I can't believe 33, but yeah, because I'll still be 33 at that point. It'll also put it into perspective as to um, what I should do for that special day. And of course, considering we are reaching that very, very quickly, I do want to get your inputs, to get your feedback on what I can do, what can be a very possible thing, and how I can at least mark the day, maybe even celebrate it in one way that you know regardless of how much time has passed, I still have that whole resolution of being able to conquer MS, to be able to fight MS, to be able to you know still keep uh, a healthy lifestyle, a safe lifestyle that I can continue to live in. So with that said, that has been what MS has taught me for episode 3. And with that said, I do want to wish you a good night, a sweet dreams, and of course, I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.